Greetings! Welcome to Nina's World. This podcast provides a short respite from the trials and tribulations of everyday life. We're going to step back in time to the 1950s and 60s. And now, our story. Nina remains silent. Just stay in your seats. Another ho-hum day in third grade was off to a ho-hum start. Nina and the other sheep put their lunch bags and spring jackets in the cloakroom. Nina stood in line to sharpen her pencil, then sharpened her pencil. Nina walked towards her desk the long way round. Nina brushed her fingers over the spines of the social studies books, counting each to drag it out. The general commotion in the room was beginning to ebb, as one after the other of her classmates sat at their desks. Nina sat at her desk. Miss Johnson called for the students' attention. "Good morning, you no-brain knuckleheads. Time to start our day." The buzzer sounded, and like Pavlov's dogs, the students stood, placed their right hands over their hearts, and we interrupt this regularly scheduled story to bring you this important message. To be honest, Miss Johnson did not call her students no-brain knuckleheads aloud, but Nina imagined that it was simply a matter of time before similarly endearing words would slip from Miss Johnson's brain, travel through her nasal cavities, and exit her mouth. After all, Nina ruminated, Miss Johnson's plaster mask could only endure so many hours of stressed smiles before it, like the wax masks of old, would snap, crackle, and pop when overheated. We now resume our story in progress. Recite the flag. Nina liked to think about the words as she recited them. I pledge. Nina's second grade teacher, Mrs. Wagner, explained it meant to make a promise. Allegiance to the flag. Recalling that Mrs. Wagner said our flag represented our country and we had to inspect it, Nina had looked closely at the flag. The stitching of the white and red stripes, those hopeful white stars contrasting with the deep blue on which they were placed, as if citizens standing at ease, but with arms stretched out, reaching to embrace all people of the United States of America. Nina felt a surge of pride. And to the republic for which it stands. This was confusing. The flag represented the country and the country represented the republic, but what was the republic? One nation under God. Nina knew God created all good things, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Nina sighed. They were big words that she didn't quite understand, but every day she was reminded how lucky she was to be an American. Be seated, boys and girls. The usual scratching, screeching of chair legs along the worn floor as students pulled their chairs back, sat, and pulled them closer to their desks. Most students recited the Our Father, a prayer that some of the kids in her class did not know and didn't recite. A minute of silence followed, but it usually only took 30 seconds, and the students looked to their teacher for instructions. Language arts time. Miss Johnson pointed to the assignments on the blackboard. Bluebirds, bring your books and come to the back of the room. Robins, do page 56 and 57 in your workbooks. The rest of you read pages 21 to 23, but don't go further. Then we'll switch. Nina joylessly dragged her reading workbook from her desk. with an exaggerated plop, opened to page 56. It was all about the letter G and how it made two sounds, one soft and one hard. There was a drawing of a gate, hard sound. There was a drawing of a giraffe, soft sound, like the letter J. Below were 12 pictures of objects with the words soft and hard underneath them. Each instructions at the top of the page directed the students to look at the picture, name it, and circle if it was a hard or soft G. Well, Nina thought it was too easy for a third grader, but what's a girl to do? Thus, Nina completed the assignment, wondering why they didn't just spell gem or giant with a J. Why did reading have to be so complicated? Ding! Time to switch activities. So Nina opened her reader to page 21. She flipped back a couple pages to remind herself what had happened previously. Zip, zero, zilch. But Nina continued onward and upward. The father went to work. The mother stayed home. The children went to school. The dog, Spot, was the only interesting character. He was mischievous as he pulled the laundry from the clothesline, chased a squirrel, good luck trying to catch that, and barked at the friendly, smiling mailman. In the picture, Mother was standing at the front door, dish towel in hand. There was a pie cooling on the windowsill. It was all so fascinating that Nina yawned and didn't even care what happened when she finished page 23. But reading time was not over, and so she continued until the story ended. Children came home from school. Mother had made dinner. Father came home from work. And Spot, he was scolded for knocking the pie off the windowsill. Oh, no. No, Spot, no. Now we have no pie. The father had his newspaper in hand. Nina wondered if Spot was going to get it, but good. She turned the page. Apparently, everyone thought Spot was just doing what a furry little adorable dog does. The family laughed heartily as Spot lapped up the remnants of the apple pie. What? Nina thought. There was no dog at Nina's house, but if there had been, and if it had knocked a pie off the kitchen counter, there would be no one laughing, especially not the dog. Mrs. Ridgway, the school secretary, came to the door, tapped lightly, signaled to Miss Johnson that she wanted to talk with her. There was a whispered conversation, a look over her shoulder, and then more words exchanged. The students were curious. This was more interesting than any dog getting away with murder. Please stay in your seats, boys and girls, Miss Johnson instructed. Be quiet. I'll be back in a few minutes. Miss Johnson followed the secretary to the office. Ah, maybe the police were there to arrest her, Nina thought. Who would be the teacher for the rest of the day, for the rest of the year? Another mystery of life unfolding. Nina pulled her sister's navy and orange Nancy Drew book from her desk, eager to learn the secret of the old clock. Now this was literature worth reading. Nina mused as she settled in for the high adventure. She heard a chair scrape on the speckled gray linoleum. Charlie walked to the front of the room, peeked out the open doorway, looked left, right, straight down the hall. He turned with a smirk and, after taking a bow, started dancing, making faces, and generally causing a ruckus. Everyone was laughing, squealing. Some kids had tears rolling down their faces. Nina wanted to laugh, but but was horrified knowing if Charlie didn't knock it off, they'd all be in trouble, all kept in during second recess. Miss Johnson caught Charlie striding back to his seat before she could ask. Charlie, with a look of an angelic Boy Scout, told her he had been picking up a piece of wayward chalk. The teacher looked around the room for verification. Some children nodded in agreement. Others, dabbing at their eyes, just smiled. But not Nina. Nina was a statue, her jaw clenched, her eyes downward, her inwards about to cause trouble. Nina didn't want to lie, but she didn't want to squeal on Charlie. Was it a sin to not speak? Miss Johnson looked about for another moment before picking up the chalk and turning to the blackboard. Nina was quiet. Nina did not raise her hand to tell the truth of the situation, thus compounding any false sense of guilt she had by her silence. The end. Thank you for visiting with us today. If you like what you heard, please subscribe to this podcast and share it with everyone you know. Return next week for another story from Nina's World. This story was written and read by Christine McKee, with gratitude to Dr. Ethel Ratkin of Bucks County Community College for editorial consultation and encouragement. Additional heartfelt support from family, friends, and members of my writing groups. Technical support was provided by Mr. Dan Tarrant of Personally Catholic. Sound engineering by Mr. Andrew Kimmel of AK Productions. May you embrace peace in your heart, in your home, and in your world.